Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season finale. I'm super excited. We're finally here. And my guest today is actually one of my standout authors for 2024, although we're recording this in 2025. She is the author of Bad Men, and her newest novel came out recently, Eat, Slay, Love. Please welcome Julie Mae Cohen. Julie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kendall.
I'm so excited to talk about these two books. I kind of talked about this a little earlier in my season, but this season ended up being a lot of authors who write books with powerful women or women who are taking back their power or very cunning and smart. And what a great way to kind of wrap up this season with your two books. And I loved them both. They were both so addicting, so good from the first chapter. Like, truly, everybody who's listening, the first chapters of each of these books are so powerful and so in different ways. I think Bad Men in particular, like, pulled at a heartstring and pulled at like a very real topic, a very sensitive topic. But they're both phenomenal. You write really great characters that I think are so relatable as a woman and so funny. And you do balance kind of a humorous element with like a really difficult topic and murder and revenge and all the fun stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed your novels.
It's good to hear that they're relatable because, they are actually all murderers.
Yeah.
So
Well, I stand for women's rights and wrongs. And I stand behind all of your characters and their choices, if I'm being honest. Can you give us a synopsis of Bad Men? And we'll kind of talk about that one. And then your newest novel, Eat, Slay, Love.
sure. Bad Men is the story of Safi Huntley Oliver, who is she's rich and beautiful. She's a triple heiress.
Mm.
She's beautiful, she's intelligent, she's charming, and she serves on the board of three charities. She's a former fashion model, and in her bad time, she kills bad men for a hobby. She kills rapists, pedophiles, abusers. She doesn't do a mansplainer in this book. Um, she, she's missing one thing. She loves her hobby. She loves her life. She just thinks that she has the best life ever, but she's missing one thing, and that is a boyfriend, because when you kill men, it's hard to find someone that you don't want to kill. So
Mhm.
she has a crush on a true crime podcaster who is the adorably messy-haired Jonathan Des Rosiers, and he is a good man. He champions the rights of victims, and he solves cases and exonerates the innocent, and punishes the guilty. Gets the guilty caught. And Safi has a huge crush on him, and she orchestrates a variety of meet cutes. She orchestrates a meet cute with him. Oh, I forgot to say that sort of in the beginning of the book, he has given up podcasting because
Mhm.
he finds a corpse on his doorstep,
Mhm.
which looks like it was put there by the bin bag killer, who's a guy who leaves dead bodies in bin bags all over London. And he's a bit traumatized by that. But Safi orchestrates a meet cute, and really the book is about their romance
Mhm.
and a lot of death going on.
Yeah. And some mystery, right? Which I
Yeah.
think you balance very well. What came first? The characters and like the plot or the mystery? Because, like you
Safi
said,
came first. Safi arrived in my head fully formed, talking
mhm,
to me. And you talk about the first chapter of that book. I wrote that first chapter before I wrote anything else. And I wrote that first chapter and I was like, I need to
mhm,
find a story to go with this character. But
yeah.
it took me a while to find the story to go with that character, to get the tone correct and to do what I wanted it to do. So I wrote that first chapter years ago, quite a long time ago,
Mm.
and
Oh,
I
wow.
think before the pandemic. And it was just sort of hanging around. And then suddenly I was like, oh, wait, it needs to be a serial killer rom-com. And I need to
Yeah.
do
Now,
that.
will it
And
be the only one in this story, or is there going to be a follow-up?
I have just finished the sequel,
How
which
exciting.
I'm calling it Body Count,
Okay.
but I don't know if that will be the title. And I've just
Okay.
finished it. Hopefully it'll be out this year in the UK. I'm not sure when it will be out in the US.
Okay. Okay. Because I was going to say the way that you end the book, which obviously we don't talk about spoilers, was very much leading into there could be a second one. So I'm excited because the way that the chapters are written is different. When you read the chapters through Safi's point of view, it's in first person, and then you read it through John's and it's in third person. I have it correctly. So was there having known now that Safi's character came to you first and that opening chapter kind of started this, is what led you to that decision writing style wise?
She demanded to be written in first person present tense. She just did. She just I don't know what it says about me, but I can instantly tell you what Safi would say or do in any situation. I've written a lot of books, and she is one of the characters who I just know inside and out and just instantly did. And she just demanded to be in first person present tense. Of course, there are craft things as well. It's not always the characters talking to you. Writing in first person present tense is quite a chick lit sort of thing to do, and sort of a rom-com sort of thing to do. So that was my nod to those genres. And also, first person present tense is one of the best ways of writing if you want to manipulate the reader. So unreliable narrators, it's not giving anything away to say that Safi is an unreliable narrator, because she is a serial killer and she lies as easily as actually she very rarely lies, to be honest. She very you will hardly ever catch her telling an actual lie. She does deceive a lot, but she very rarely lies, which is super fun to write. But it's much easier to deceive the reader in first person present tense.
And I think as I'm reading it, I felt like I was obviously her friend, or seeing everything through her perspective and aligned with her, and reading John's story, or just like reading about him through her. Even when I read his chapters, it kind of almost gave me more information about him as it pertains to her and their relationship. So you got me. That's all I'm going to say. Into your second book that I read, Eat, Slay, Love. Can you tell us a little bit about that book, and then we'll chat about it?
Sure. Eat, Slay, Love is a standalone book, so it's not, although there is very small crossover with Bad Men. I don't know if anybody has seen it yet.
Oh, I'm curious now.
Very small. It's set in London, more or less at the same time. But anyway, Eat, Say, Love is a story about three women. Again, it's a feminist thriller. There's a story about three women who are all strangers to each other. There's Marina, who is a divorced mother of three preschoolers. There's Lila, who is a mild-mannered librarian who happens to have won 60 million pounds on the lottery. And there's Opal, who is a postmenopausal fitness influencer. Had a bit of a tough cookie, bit of a bully, actually. And the three of them know nothing about each other, except they do have one thing in common, which is the man who has been cheating all of them, and who is tied up in Marina's basement.
Yep. And I'm curious, for the three women that you have created in this novel, do you identify with one over the other? Because as you're talking about them, it's funny because I felt like I identified with Opal the most, despite the fact that we called her a bully, but I felt immediately, having no personal stake in the matter, I'm just as angry, or like, full force, like, how do I fix this? Let me, tell everybody what's going on, which is kind of Opal's personality. And I felt the most frustrated with Lila for a smidge, a small second or two. And so it's interesting. But do you have one of these characters that you identify with most, and how did they each come to you?
They're all different aspects of me, It's funny. I didn't really think about it before, but they really all are. I only have one child, but I am divorced. And my child is 18, but I remember those years of having a very small child, and my ex at the time, we were together, but he was actually a guitar tech for rock bands. He still is
Oh,
a guitar
cool.
tech for rock bands. So he was on tour. He spent most of my child's babyhood on tour with James Morrison.
Oh,
So
cool.
or and various other bands. So um, I was a single mother for a long time, so I could really identify with that, sort of trying to cope
Mhm.
on your own. Lila is such a bookworm, and that was me when I was in my 20s. You know, I loved and I wanted to be a librarian. The library was my happy place. And so I was never as meek as she is. She's very
Yeah.
mild-mannered and meek, very much a homebody.
Mhm.
I was never as sweet as her, but her passion for books is totally mine. And Opal, I just completely identify with, and because I am now postmenopausal, and I'm not a fitness influencer by any extent, but, you know, just her, just, like, how she is just that they say, like, once you hit menopause, your estrogen drops, and your estrogen is what's been keeping you being nice, like, your entire life,
Okay.
and once that's gone, you just no longer give a I don't know if I can
Mm.
swear here, but you know what I'm gonna
Yes, you
say.
can.
Okay, you just give 0 fucks now, and you
Yeah.
just say it as it is, and that is Opal. She's just like, "Yeah, well,
Interesting.
um, and, so I identify with all of them. I think I started writing the book with Marina because I just thought the most unlikely person to have a man in her basement is a
Yes.
mother of 3 young children. I thought that was really unusual
Yes.
and fun, and I wanted to just know how she was gonna deal with her 3 kids while she had this guy
Yeah.
tied up in a basement, you know?
Why you write under two names.
So I've been writing under my own name for a long time.
Uh-huh.
I've had quite a few books out under Julie Cohen, but when I wanted to write funny feminist thrillers, the brand is quite different. They're both
Okay.
feminist, you know,
Okay.
I always write about women as protagonists and looking at issues that affect women.
Mhm.
Um, and looking at the patriarchy imbalances within relationships. But I it's very different. Like I like to say, Julie Cohen is feminism with sort of introspective feminism, and Julie Mae Cohen is feminism with knives. That group chat saves my life on a daily
Yeah. Mhm.
basis.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think I also I've talked about this with my friends where I think, female friendships especially are so incredibly deep and connected and like you really grow with people and as you get older, people they say, people come into your life for a reason, a season or, a lifetime. And those kind of relationships can cultivate or you can, or they fizzle out, but like the growth that you do with people is a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I do think that's a strength of women,
Mhm.
and I was gonna say women and queer people actually,
Yeah.
that we do tend to cultivate these communities, around us, and I think that is it's a real strength that we have. Eat,
Yeah.
Slay, Love is dedicated to my 3 best friends.
Aw, I love that. That's very sweet. Now, what is the biggest change you've seen in yourself over time?
Well, uh, the menopause has been a really big change, but probably that's why they call it the change. Um, but, I would say probably what most people who know me, the biggest change would be is that I came out when I was in my midlife.
Mhm,
So I came out as bisexual when I was in my midlife and I was married to a man. And and I actually had known that I was bisexual for a long time and I was out to various people who I was close to, but I wasn't publicly out.
mhm,
I didn't think that it was important to tell anybody because I was in a straight seeming relationship and I
mhm.
was married and we were committed to each other and I wasn't, looking to date at
Yeah.
that point. Um, but I there came a time when I realized that I had to live authentically and openly, um, ab about to be myself in that way, even though I wasn't looking to date anybody at that
Yeah.
point. Still married, I'm not married now, I'm divorced, but and I'm not divorced because I came out. They were completely unrelated, but I came out probably when I think I was 45.
Mm.
Um, and that made a real big difference in my life. It shifted things. I sort of have a before and after now. And of course, now I'm divorced and I'm dating women. So that there is a practical difference in my life.
Mhm.
But I think it was very important, even though I wasn't looking to date when I came out, to declare that who I
Yeah.
was and what I was mattered, even though, I looked like a normal mom. Um, I I have this aspect of myself which is really important to me.
Mhm.
And looking back on my books, and saying that I can see that evolution, there came a time I was writing straight rom-coms for so long, but they were
Mhm.
just queer in odd ways. Like I say that Bad Men is a very queer rom-com because what
Mhm.
it does is, even though it's between a man and a woman, the power dynamics are completely flipped on their head because she's a
Yes.
serial killer and he doesn't know it. But also the whole book is a satire on how screwed up heterosexual relationships are. So
Yes.
I do say that that's a bit of a queer book, but I can see the evolution of my own sort of
Yeah.
openness about my own sexuality coming out in my books over the
It's
years.
because there are so many books that you read that really kind of resonate with you or feed something in
Like
you,
a
like a
woman.
woman or a person who's killing all these bad men because you feel like there's so much injustice in the world. And so to read these books and see that kind of feeds a little bit of that. I feel a little bit of justice in something, even though it's fictional. And
Mhm,
I kind of love that and appreciate that.
mhm.
Mhm.
It's the purpose of fiction, I think,
Yeah.
is to give us that, well, to give us the catharsis, to give us the, but also to help us imagine something. I mean, it sounds weird when you're talking about murdering men, but also,
Yes.
imagine something better
Yeah. Yeah. I
or
agree.
realize that other people feel the same way as you
But
do.
what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail?
Gosh. Now you sent me that question beforehand, didn't you? And
Yes.
I think it's such a difficult question that I didn't even come up with an
Of
answer.
dressing up.
I love putting on drag. That would be it. I would have a
Okay.
drag king act.
There you go. You could definitely
Great
do
answer.
that. Both of those
Oh
are great answers, and both of those are
my
things that you definitely could do. And once your life maybe calms down a bit, you take like an oil painting class, or you create a drag show. You can see it.
happen. Maybe it'll
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm. Julie, thank you so much for being here for this first episode. Can you tell people where they can find you and where they can get your books?
Yes, you can find my books wherever you buy books. So I would say go to your local independent bookstore and support
Mhm.
them. That's is the best place to find books, or your local library is also the best place to find
Yes.
books. I am very much a fan of buying books in a brick and mortar bookshop.
Mhm.
And if you can't get to a brick and mortar bookshop, buying books from independent bookshops online is a very good way to go. You're not funding
Yes.
billionaires, you're funding book lovers such as yourself.
Yeah.
I'm on Blue Sky.
Mm.
This is your ethical social media at the moment. I'm on
Yes.
Blue Sky as Julie Cohen, at Blue Sky Social, I think it is. I'm on Instagram as Julie Cohen Author, which is I think where you found me. Um,
Mhm.
I have my website is juliemaecohen.com.